Chapter 8. A spared life today, a threat tomorrow? I can see the very hand-shaped and mortal-sculpted rock Saba spoke of now. An amethyst prairie of swords, toadstools, and florets surrounds the large rock. The native furry pollinators are hard at work, toiling in the prairie, seducing the buds of the various wildflowers and romancing them for their spill. In their reciprocation for that sweet nectar, they carry the seeds of giving flowers to their destined plot of wombs, doing thus without rest, and doing thus until the day they themselves become as nourishment for the soil that ruptures forth the offspring of stems and petals to be courted in days yet to come by the kin of the workers that survived them. And thus the cycle goes. The limestone palm is held open and reaching, and though it is, indeed, an unfurled hand, it yet grips my attention vigorously. Its peaks, each long and serrated, are fingertips cutting the passing sky. Paying careful attention to avoid the nearby road, I approach the carved monument. With my track command active, Saba is effortlessly located by it. He must be sure of the discreetness of this location, for he has made no endeavor in concealing his presence. He is carving the fur off of a catch, some sort of small vertebrae. The scene turns my stomach and makes me nauseous. It had slipped my mind that the Tamas are carnivorous, a detail of significance, nevertheless a detail yet, and not the overview. This ought not deter me, but it most certainly invokes a revulsion that I must contend with and learn to tolerate. He sets his prey down next to a bushel of greens once he realizes that I am standing behind him. Noting these crops, I am quickly corrected of my assumption that they are strictly eaters of meat. It seems that they partake in both flesh and harvest.
"Do you have it?"
he says without turning around. I do, but to calm my intuition, I'll be the one handling it. He scoffs.
"So be it. Lay it on the ground and let us have a look."
I pull the golden map from under my garments and unroll it on the billowing grass. The guiding chart is weighted enough as to not be disrupted or moved by the rolling winds, and thus no stones are required to sit at its lustrous corners. Saba's eyes do not leave it unaccompanied, not even for a second or a fragment of one. I can find no blame in his marveled squint. How could anyone resist this captivating, unspoken presentation? Far be it from me the indifference required to look away. There is an art to the silence it produces when unveiled, a dramatic pause of reflection on that which has never been observed. I refrained with great trouble from studying it myself due to a fear of being discovered, though it had been in my possession for some time.
Yes. Right here. It's right here."
He points to a wee island far off the west coast of the mainland, nodding his head with each affirmation. I have never strayed so far. Simply put, our unexpected roving from these lands to the great arena was the first time I've been away from any of the Omani-controlled territories. I say this in humble confidence. To expose what I do not know to him now would be ill-advised, yet I say thus anyways as a gesture of trust. Will he take advantage of this vulnerability? After all, it is likely that he has already deduced that I have limited exposure beyond the boundaries of our grasslands, forests, and jungles. He ignores my comment entirely and begins speaking of the journey ahead whilst trailing his finger across the intended path. Saba has already deemed his understanding of me fit. He believes me to be a virgin to exploration, a novice to true adventure, a babe to the world as it truly is. And he is not wrong.
"We travel northwest through the Khan tundra, as to avoid any wolf packs and Tamas raiders. Then, when we near these unnamed mountain ranges, we'll shoot south and follow the Sahan River until here, where it momentarily thins and sinks into the vast desert. From there, we'll walk the dunes all the way to the coast. As far as getting across the water goes, we'll likely find need in pirating an unsuspecting trade ship. Every merchant in Botakesh, and some even from rogue Omani tribes, end up in the port of thieves. We shall confiscate one along the way."
He looks up for my confirmation. You've thought through this thoroughly. I can see that. Yet, for reasons unbeknownst to me, you have us venturing through some of the most desolate and dangerous terrains in all of Oma. I equip myself, dual-wielding doubt and cynicism. Nevertheless, he makes it appear as though there will be no obstacles by character or event that will require improvisation of his premeditated route.
I haven't even mentioned the Scorch Zone yet.
He chuckles. Unnerving. Wolves are trained to steer clear of scorch zones entirely. I stare at the map in confusion. He continues.
I was going to leave this minor detail out and burn that bridge when we crossed it. But yes, the Scorch Zone is located on the island itself. Take a look.
He points to the legend and then to the island. My stomach weaves a warning. Last I heard of any wolves exploring a scorch zone, a pack ventured in to scout and survey the land, but none of them returned. Have you been inside of a scorch zone before?
No.
His reply is arid. And you expect us to go in blind?
Not entirely. This map is more than meets the eye.
That is saying much, for it fiercely meets it.
If the stories surrounding it are valid, I have reason to believe the map speaks to us in portents and omens.
I did not take Saba for the superstitious or parabolic type. As though it has ears, the map begins breathing. Not literally, but it does so as though I were under the influence of Sansaras. It inhales, then it exhales. It proceeds to do so for 5 repetitions, then on the last exhale the focus of its shine gravitates inward on a particular location before dimming back to its normal brilliance.
Ha! You see now, it wants us to succeed.
His overly enthusiastic response troubles me. But what is it telling us? I skeptically put to him. He points to the location specified.
There must be something that can aid us through the Scorch Zone here.
His facial expression is off-putting. This map seems to emit by its mere being an aura that induces deliriousness. It captivates me whenever I stare at it. But Saba seems obsessed, infatuated, fanaticized even. Yet, the quest is clearly laid out before us. Auspiciously, we'll be crossing near this point when we travel through the tundra regardless. It does little to delay us, I point out.
It is fate.
His stare is fervent. He reaches to grab the map, but I quickly retract it and roll it back into my garments. Let's go, I demand as to quell his disconcerting lust. Saba picks up his kill and we start northwest to greet the Khan tundra. About 10 steps in, as I am gazing at the wavering thistles below, I bring my advance to a halt on account of a whimsical sentiment arising from the omission of our previously adjourned contest. I hope you can keep up without your shinat. My competitive nature is unshakable. Saba's teeth protrude from his grin. He accepts my challenge. Clashing and clamping down with his fingers, he jams them into the dirt through the vibrant amethyst grass. In a crouched position, the dirt beneath him begins to skitter and sputter, flying backwards from his position. He turns his head facing me and says,
"May the best warrior win."
His frame nearly whiplashes as he blasts off, skewing tidal waves of the terrain in his wake. Why leave a trail of evidence for one to track? I do not know, but I care not at current. My sole concern now is to beat him. My surges through my legs, bolstering them, and I take off in pursuit. In pursuit of victory. In pursuit of good sport. In pursuit of a dream. And in wishful thinking that what we pursue is no mirage. As we arrive to the naturally lined border of the tundra, Sa dips into the horizon. We agree that we ought set up camp for the night. Both Saba and I are exhausted. He is going through great lengths to conceal his fatigue, but I know well of its presence. The lineage-forged and ancestrally equipped Tamasu clears a small patch of land with his vibrational prowess, the shrubbery turning to a skeleton of itself, then that to dust. He unpacks a thin fur blanket and lays on it facing away from me. I wait timidly until he's sound asleep, Then I pull the map out once more for my own viewing pleasures. Either my eyes are playing tricks on me, or this is a dream. When moonlight strikes the map, it reveals the path we trekked thus far. Names of territories and civilizations, most likely forgotten in time, that I'd never heard of, accrue and populate the map. In a symbolic gesturing, it tells of our histories. The rise of cities, as well as their toppling. Great battles fought, the erecting of roads, the excavations of rock and the clearing of forests. All of it comes and goes across the etchings of the map. The changes are staining themselves in. As its spectacular finale, there's a clear representation of a dead tree where the map has been coaxing us to go. Not in the fashion of a dare, nor is it a wager, but a promise. By this demonstration, I am imparted with a sense of great responsibility. An urging to answer a call and to respond with a dignified imperative rattles my heart. I ought wake Saba. Shh. A whispering female's breath, trickling down the back of my neck, commands my silence. I gulp, and by this, the expansion of my throat meets the fine edge of a cold blade, lightly pressed against it. How could I be so careless as to believe we weren't followed?
Come. Do not make a sound.
She pulls my collar, persuading me to follow her away from Saba. When I get a good look at her, it is revealed to me that she is a Tamasa. Look, tell me what it is that you want from us. A low growl presses out of my lips. She seems entirely uninterested in the map, for she left it where it was.
From you? Oh, just your head. Saba I need alive to answer for his crimes in the great arena.
Her remarks come across as satirical, but they are far from it. Beyond your sight lies a greater design in motion. You'd be careful not to disrupt it, I reply.
Yes, and the culmination of this design would be of one framing my image in the champion's mess hall once I deliver the skull of an Omani scum and a Tamas traitor in shackles,
She quietly snorts. Your imagination is nearly as rampant as his...
Corvana.
Saba has approached her stealthily, just as she had done with me, his scimitar now drawn at her neck. Her irony is proven swift, and Saba's ears truly are as good as mine. Her nostrils flare and quiver as her lids and ducts fill themselves with wrath-provoked tears.
Poor little Corvana, the grunt of the litter, the weakest link in our race's chain. Oh, powerless Tamasa, still attempting to prove your worth, is that it?
Saba's words pierce even me. She sniffles in her grimace. Warring emotions dance in her eyes and upon her face. Anger for her enemy clashes with disappointment for herself on the battlefield that is her identity. Saba proceeds with his eyes fixed upon me.
See here, Omani. A Tamasa, whom was never blessed with a warrior's prowess. A shame, no. Her ability, one of uselessness. She deserves an end, and she ought rightfully beg for it. The end of my scimitar, to be more precise, he lectures.
Tie her up and leave her to fend for herself. There's no need to kill her. She's been defeated, I say. I cannot bear to watch as a lone, hurting soul is disposed of with no opportunity to do better for herself, even if she did attempt to take my life. She claims her quest is for glory and prestige, but there's more to it than that. These things are but the bone. The flesh is more. There's something personal here, something subtly addressing and directed towards Saba. She glares at me with delusion, humiliation, and disgust.
Finish me!
She hollers.
Get it over with! Rebuke your piety!
Allow me, Saba, to incapacitate her. Reluctantly he nods, giving my proposal air. Command, infiltrate. Turning the hysteria induced by her outcry against her, I employ it as an opportunity to slip into her vulnerable mind. Wandering through her library of memories, I cannot help but feel for her. The adversity she has faced since birth is that of a forced isolation and a mocking abashment. Her peers regard her as barren and futile, yet her ability is anything but. she can assume the pain of her target. Beautiful. A sacrificial ode to selflessness sung by way of self-abdication and action, and not by words. She is adamant in barring me from entering certain memories, suppressed ones. Regret-filled instances, I suppose. Her willpower is vast, and I do not wish to force my way into corridors that may haunt me and harm her. Corvana collapses.
You fished through her mind, as you did with the Argul?
Saba inquires. I nod my yes. I had not known that Saba witnessed me doing so with the Argul. Let us bind and leave her. She won't wake for a few hours. We best carry on. My willingness to forego ensuring our safety from her, ought she find a way to continue her pursuit, arises out of a feeling or intuition that I cannot identify nor rectify. It isn't quite pity, though I cannot say for certain. Saba's snark countenance disagrees with my decision, but he does not fight it, nor does he bother to ask me what it is that I may have seen in her. We set off.